All right, so I'm going to start here, even though this is not the PowerPoint. So this is page 115 in your textbook. It's figure 4.5. So you are going to complete a worksheet about bone histology. What I will say about this section, this is where it kind of gets a little bit harder for some people. This is a section that if you don't know and understand the histology well, that you can kind of bomb the questions associated with this on the test. So make sure you've got this down really well and let me know if you don't understand some component or all of this. So when we look at bone on this particular diagram, this would be a transverse or a horizontal section that completed or that produced this diagram. We've already talked about some of the specific words on here. So notice that each of these different rings is called an osteon or a Haversian system. And then here we've got one that's pulled out and looking at the little piece of the pie over here. The different layers within that osteon or the Haversian system, those are known as lamella. Notice that you've got the lacuna labeled down here and then the osteocyte within the lacuna. These canaliculi, that's going to be important too. Essentially that's going to allow the osteocytes within different lacuna to communicate with each other. Okay, and then down here you've got a Haversian canal, which is different than a Volkmann's canal. So Haversian canals are going to run through the middle of each osteon and contain nerves and blood vessels, both arteries and veins. Okay, and then Volkmann's canals, they're going to connect different Haversian systems to each other. And then I'm going to go to the PowerPoint notes next. Okay, so to kind of pick up where I left off, I was basically right here that each of our different systems of concentric rings is known as an osteon or a Haversian system, and going down the middle of that lengthwise is a Haversian canal. That's where arteries and veins and nerves are going to be located. And again, when we're talking about arteries, they are going to supply oxygen and nutrients to the osteocytes. The nerves are going to supply information, and then the vein is going to drain the bone, specifically of carbon dioxide and other nitrogen waste products from those cells. If you remember back, and I guess the first lecture PowerPoint, blood vessels and nerves are going to be really abundant in the periosteum, that connective tissue membrane that covers every bone. And then they're going to run through horizontal tubes as well that are known as Volkmann canals that again are going to connect bone cells to each other and link Haversian canals with each other as well. All right, and so then here again, the concentric rings are called lamella. Within each lamella, you've got your osteocytes within lacuna. So again, the lacuna is the space that holds the osteocyte. And then this section, it says osteocytes, which are specifically, and I haven't really mentioned this yet, they're inactive bone-forming cells. We're going to talk about that there are two different types of cells that are either building bone or breaking bone down. But osteocytes, they're trapped within that bone tissue. And then the next sentence says that there are tiny canals that radiate in all directions from the lacuna, and they're called canaliculi. And they let cells communicate with each other, but they also provide routes for nutrients and oxygen to get to the osteocytes, and again for waste to diffuse away. So if we're talking about nutrients getting to a cell within a bone, they're obviously going to come essentially from arteries that are outside the periosteum, but once we get to the bone, the periosteum or connective tissue membrane, arteries, blood's going to move through there. It's going to then go into an osteon, or again a Haversian system. It's going to get into the central canal or the Haversian canal where blood vessels are located. Then it's going to move through each, essentially a given lamella, okay, go into a specific lacuna, and then be delivered to a specific osteocyte. Then again, waste will be picked up and it'll move in the opposite direction, right to left. Okay, so nutrients are going to come in left to right, waste products are going to leave right to left. Let me know if you have any questions.